Just a couple months ago, I celebrated my 3-year anniversary since I officially quit my job and started this company, which at the time was called Honeyman Creative Solutions. I rebranded about a year-ish later as Honey Be Bold. But I've been thinking a lot lately about this journey that I've been on over the last 3 years and kind of thinking through what are the lessons that I would want to give to my year one self, right? If I were starting over, if I were just getting started, what would I tell myself kind of looking back now? And as I've talked about so many times, this has been a roller coaster. My first year, I honestly had beginner's luck. I actually had a really successful first year overall, as successful as I was hoping that it would be. And I kind of thought that I had it all figured out. You got beginner's luck and you figure that things are going to just continue. And then year two hit me like a freaking brick. It just took everything out of me. It took the wind out of my sails and showed me that no, I did not have pretty much anything figured out. I just got lucky that first year. And then I basically have worked my way back to a really successful business today. And year three of my business wound up being super successful. I am now into year four with really big goals that I talked about a couple episodes ago. So I want to talk about kind of this journey a little bit and what lessons I would give to my baby year one business Rachel self. So wherever you are in your business, you can hopefully learn some lessons from my experience. Because again, it has not been all pretty. I've got a lot of lessons learned the hard way. So let's dive in. Hey, beautiful human. You're listening to Bold Women in Business, the show where strategy meets soul in marketing, branding, and business growth. I'm your host, Rachel Honeyman, messaging and branding strategist, content queen, and compulsive meeting maker. Every week, I'll help you ditch the cookie cutter playbook and build a brand that actually sounds like you, sells like hell, and feels so damn good to show up for. Let's get bold. So when I decided to launch my business in November of 2022, I had made the decision a few months earlier, obviously. I didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to launch my business. I had made the decision. I had even told my work fairly early. I gave them pretty early notice. I would say at least probably 4 or 6 weeks notice that I was planning on leaving and going out on my own. And so I had this idea in mind. And the one thing that I really did very smartly is that I started putting out feelers before I left my job. I started putting out feelers that I was going to go out and start my own thing. And at the time, I really didn't have a clear sense of what that would look like. I was doing a little bit of everything in the beginning, some freelance writing and editing. And honestly, I kind of was operating as a freelancer much more than as a business owner, even though my goal was to build this into a business. And I knew that I wanted to build a team. I wanted to really make this a significant business, but I didn't quite know what that was going to look like or how to do it. And there was so much that I didn't have figured out. The one thing that I did was that I started putting out feelers early. And so I lined up projects even before I had left my job. So literally my last day there was, I don't even remember the dates, but something like November 22nd, let's just say. And November 23rd, I dove in on my first project. And it happened to be a website project that was a referral from a colleague at my job that I had met with. And I told her this was my plan. And she said, oh, I just met someone who needs help with this. Let me put you in touch. And it wound up working out. And that was my first project. The other thing that I did was that I spoke with my job and I said, I know that you need help. Me leaving is going to leave a big hole in the editorial team. At the time, I was doing SEO editing essentially. And so I said, I'll be happy to stay on in a freelance capacity. So you can send me projects freelance and, I'll just work them into my capacity and all of that. And so I basically had these two things lined up. I had some other people in my network who were happy to send me projects. And so with that, I basically started my business with business already in the bank, which was great. I highly recommend that. Highly, highly, highly recommend that. But what I did not know is the very hard reality, which is lesson number 1. Referrals dry up. So I had this beginner's luck high where I had these projects lined up for the first couple of months of my company, and that kind of continued. I had this whole network. I have a pretty broad network, which is great. It really has helped me in a lot of ways. And I did a good job of reaching out to people and posting on LinkedIn and sharing what I was up to and getting my network and the people that I was already connected with interested in either hiring me themselves or sending work my way. And that felt so, so good, right? It feels so good. And then there was this crash because referrals really dry up. Referrals are amazing. I always tell my clients this when they say that they get most of their work through word of mouth. I always say, like, I am happy to get work through word of mouth. And I still get work through word of mouth, through referrals. It's great. It is the whipped cream on top of the sundae. That's what it is. It's a bonus. It is not a strategy. Relying on referrals is not a strategy. It doesn't fill your pipeline. And that's really where I found myself about a month or so into year 2, right? So I kind of completed year 1, felt really good about how this first year went. It was great. But then as I entered year 2, I was like, oh shit, I do not know where my next project is coming from. I've tapped my network. Everyone has hired me already who might have had a project for me. What do I do now? Where's my pipeline? I had no pipeline at all. It did not exist. So that brings me to lesson number 2, which is that showing up consistently is so much more important than showing up perfectly. Because where I got stuck, the trap that I got stuck in with number 1 is I said, oh crap, where's my work coming from? And then when I realized, well, I have no marketing engine here, like there's no marketing happening at all. It doesn't matter that this is what I do for my clients. I was not doing it for myself because I was so reliant on my referral network that I didn't put any thought into my marketing. And then I got in my own way and started obsessing and overthinking and just thinking that I needed to post this perfect content all the time. And then what happened? Surprise, surprise, not surprising at all. I would wake up and say, oh shit, I haven't posted anything on LinkedIn in like 3 months. Because I've been obsessing. And then that would just lead me further down the rabbit hole of like obsessing and overthinking and getting in my own way and feeling paralyzed. I was so paralyzed by the very idea of putting myself out there in a consistent way. And that perfectionism trap was keeping me completely invisible. No one outside of my little network, which had already dried up, no one knew who I was or what I did or why they should hire me. And I know that you're probably nodding along with this because most people that I speak with are in the same trap. So what I learned is that consistent is so much better than perfect. And when I started showing up consistently and I got out of my fucking way and I ripped off the Band-Aid and said, I am going to show up no matter what. I'm just going to show up and I'm going to do it really intentionally. I'm going to have a strategy here. I'm going to show up intentionally, but I'm going to post things that are not going to be perfect. I am going to really let down myself sometimes with my posts. That's going to happen. But I actually am never letting myself down because I'm showing up consistently. And that's the most important thing. And so that shift really changed everything. And I think that if I were talking to my year 1 self, this is like probably the most important thing that I would say is be ready to show up consistently, but imperfectly. And just keep showing up because that is how people are going to know you. They're going to get to know you. They're going to love you and what you put out there. And when you can show up authentically and as yourself and all of that, that is going to make so much more of a difference than showing up perfectly, but sporadically and really inconsistently is ever going to get you. Lesson number 3 is not every client is your client. This is something that I learned very much the hard way. So that first client that I mentioned that, they hired me for this web project. And in so many ways, it was such a good project. I learned a ton from that project. But one of the things that I learned was I can't say yes to everything. And at the time, you can say when you're just starting out, well, you have to say yes to everything. And sure, there is something to be said for that because you just need experience under your belt and you need some things to add to your portfolio and you need all of that. That's true. And I'm glad that I worked on that project. I don't regret working on that project. But it really did tell me, it showed me that there is a major cost in, first of all, undercharging. I majorly undercharged because I was just like, work with me. I need clients, right? I'm starting this new thing. I need clients. And I really did not protect myself. So it was a little bit of a crazy situation where I had created a bunch of content for them. They decided for one reason or another, they were not happy with it. They wound up actually like basically stealing the work that I had done and not paying me for it. So we had this longer term contract and they kind of left me in the lurch and I got a bit screwed over. So that was a really hard earned lesson, which is that not every client is your client. And over the course of that year, I had a lot of those. I really did. I had a lot of those where I was just like ready to work with anyone. And again, I don't necessarily regret working with those people, but it did teach me that I can't say yes to everyone. And bad fit clients really do cost you energy and time and confidence. There were so many moments where even though I was technically doing well, I was just like, what did I just do? Like, what did I just do opening this business? And like, I don't even know if this made sense. I don't know if I am the right person for this. And I had so much self-doubt. And it's really only this past year where I've been able to get super crystal clear on who I want to work with, saying no to the people who are not the right fit, getting just really confident about who is the best partner for me. And that is actually the key, is really seeing your clients not as someone who is paying you for work, right? You're not just delivering work. You are partnering with this person and you want your clients to see you as a thought partner, as a strategic partner, as someone that they can trust. And honestly, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Even if you are a service provider, whatever it is, and you're delivering a work product, it doesn't matter. That work product comes from a really healthy partnership between you and your client. And that is going to change the quality of your work. It's going to change the quality of your life. And it's going to change how your clients view you and the rates that you can charge and all of that. Quick pause. Can we talk about content for a second? If you're staring at a blank screen more often than you're hitting post, it might be because you're trying to create content that doesn't fit your actual strengths. It's kind of like wearing someone else's jeans. They may look super good on your friend, but you put them on and they are not comfortable and they just aren't doing your butt any favors. That's why I created the Content Marketing Power Type quiz. It's free and it helps you figure out the kind of content you were made to create. The kind of content that feels natural, sustainable, and actually connects with your people in a way that lights you up. In just 45 seconds, or maybe even 30 if you're quick about it, you're going to find out your power type and get custom recommendations to make content feel easier and more effective. Head on over to honeybeebold.com/quiz. That's HoneyBeebold.com/quiz. Take it and then DM me your result because I kind of need to know. All right, let's dive back into the episode. Lesson number 4 is that investing in help earlier is better. So this is a very common thing that I see with business owners. And this is true whether you're in year 1 or year 5 or wherever, right? Generally, by the time people get past year 5, they know that they need to invest in help. Like they know that that's a necessary thing to do. But there's this resistance that so many business owners have. Number 1, they're worried about the cost. They feel like they're not bringing in enough money to justify paying someone else. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes that is true to some extent, but it can't be the whole story. 2 is that they have this resistance because of control. They feel like no one can do it like me and they don't want to outsource anything. But there are so many parts of your business. And I talked about this in the last episode or 2 episodes ago, where I talked about what I'm changing in 2026. And one of the things is that I'm building out my team. But I actually did not build out my team just this year. I made my first hire about 2 months into starting my business. So this is a lesson that I can give you as, it's something that I did right from year 1, but it is a really important lesson, which is that you need help. You need help. And help, again, does not need to mean hiring someone full-time or having a partner in your business or paying thousands of dollars a month for help with something that you could do better yourself. But the key really is thinking about where your zone of genius is. Where are you going to do your best work? And what are you wasting time and energy on in your business that is actually preventing you from closing more business or growing your business? And there are so many things like that that you probably aren't thinking about, but it really, really does make a difference. There is this ROI that's kind of hard to quantify, but it is very real. So, as an example, the thing that I handed off first was my bookkeeping because I am not a bookkeeper. Like, by any means. I have a master's in English. I am not a math person. There is some element of math in some of the work that I do, but for the most part, I am not a math person. And so when I start looking at spreadsheets and trying to like manipulate numbers and keep track of things and reconciling books and all of that, my brain goes to mush and it actually cuts into my ability to do my actual work and the thing that I am magical at. It just makes it so much harder. So that was the first thing that I handed off. And, over time, I've handed off more and more and more things. But each step along the way, I really did think about what am I spending my time and energy on that is actually costing me. It's costing me potential income. It's costing me quality of work, right? If I have client work, but my brain isn't functioning at full capacity because I'm spending my time and energy on things that really drain me or really get me out of my zone of genius, then I'm actually putting my client work in jeopardy. And that's not okay because my number one asset is the quality of work that I deliver. Right? That's how I get clients coming back to me. That's how I get clients referring me, right? We do love referrals. It's how I prove the value of what I do. It's how I get great testimonials, all of that, right? Doing a single client project in the best way that I can and delivering the best work that I possibly can has compounding value to it that really honestly can't be quantified. Because I don't know when someone comes to me and they decide to hire me. This is the part about the work that I do that can be a little nebulous, we'll say. It's a little tricky to define because the whole idea of having a really strong brand and a really strong website and really strong content marketing is that you're giving people so many touch points to decide that they trust you enough to hire you and to entrust their business to you, or in my case, to me, right? You may not work with business owners, but your clients are not deciding to hire you based on one interaction. I guarantee you, they are not. They are having multiple interactions with you, whether you know it or not. They're looking at all these different touch points. And so when I deliver my best work to a client and then I get a testimonial or I create a case study or I post the work that I've done for them on my social media or on my website or wherever, and a potential client comes through and, they're seeing my social media posts on Instagram, they're reading my posts on LinkedIn, they're reading my emails, they're browsing my website and looking at all the different places that they're seeing my blog and they're listening to my podcast and they're looking at my case studies and they're looking at my services page and they're reading my testimonials, and all of these touch points eventually lead them to reach out to me and say, hey, I want to work with you. And even if they are a referral, this happens all the time. I'll have someone who refers someone to me. And that person then peruses all of these different touch points before deciding, oh yeah, I want to hire them. Because even though they came through a referral, they are still vetting me. So that's just one thing to really keep in mind, is that you want to think about what are you spending your time and energy on that is preventing you from doing your best work, because doing your best work is your best asset. So really think through all of the things that you're spending your time and energy on in your business. I actually just went through this exercise with Aviv, my first hire and, most integral part of my team. We went through this exercise. We sat down for, I think, about 2 hours. We spent like a 2-hour meeting defining like top to bottom, what are all the possible activities that I'm spending my time on in this business, or that anyone is spending their time on, right? What are all the activities that happen to make this business run? And then we defined like, what are the things that I could outsource theoretically? right? That doesn't mean that I'm outsourcing all of them right away, but what are the things that I could outsource so that I could do my best work? So really think through, is it your bookkeeping? Is it your marketing? Is it your client work? Is there some part of your client work that you actually could outsource and that you don't enjoy spending your time on? There are so many parts of your business. So really think through all of those different parts and what could you hand off? And when you think about the resistance when it comes to cost, really think through that exercise of what is it costing you to continue spinning your wheels on those parts of your business. So that brings me to lesson number 5, which I kind of just touched on. I went on a little bit of a tangent here, but lesson number 5 is that trust compounds. It often feels like nothing is working until it is. There is this long game of showing up and building relationships and staying visible. And this doesn't happen overnight, right? This is part of why I rail against this idea of trying to go viral with a post. And that people often say to me, like, I put all this work into this one post and it didn't do well. Well, that doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. A single post doesn't give you enough information. I have had posts that get over 10,000 views, right? I've never had a post that went mega viral. I just haven't. And I actually am totally fine with that because I know that a single post going viral could make zero impact on your business. And in fact, I've spoken with people who have experienced extreme virality on Instagram, for example, where they have a post that gets whatever, let's just say 1 million views. And then the cost that it has is that they have all of these comments that they need to respond to. They might have a lot of comments that are very negative because one of the things that happens when you go viral is that you're reaching an audience that isn't necessarily your people, right? So the post that you would normally be getting really positive feedback on, all of a sudden you're reaching all these people who are not your people and see it as an opportunity to troll or add their negative feedback. And now you have all of these comments that you need to manage, right? And now that's taking away from your actual work. So I'm not saying like a viral post never helps you, but it's not what we should be aiming for. What we should be aiming for is that slow trust building, being consistent, showing up, understanding that this is a long game and it is a game that takes many, many touch points. Trust is not built in one arena. Trust is built in all of those other places that I just mentioned, right? Your social media posts, yes, but you also have your website, you also have your testimonials, you have your emails, you have all of these other places. You have in-person networking, right? I don't do a lot of in-person networking, but some people like it. I'm also in a bunch of niche communities where I have access to basically a bunch of female entrepreneurs who are my potential clients. And this is a great place for me to share my expertise and engage with people and basically just get in front of more people and connect with more people. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can expand your network, expand your reach without necessarily having a single video or a single post get like gangbuster views. That's not necessarily going to move the needle for you. I have had posts that have 200 views on them. Literally, I've had reels that have 200 views on them that led to someone coming through my door and becoming a client. So you just never know. You never know. But the idea here is that trust compounds and it is something that's worth investing in over time. So whether you are in year 1 of your business or year 2, or maybe you're a few years into your business and you're just kind of in this starting over phase, I want you to think about what would you tell your year 1 self, even if that's right now. What are you taking away from this episode that is going to carry you through year 1, year 2, year 3, whatever? What is your biggest lesson? DM it to me. I want to hear what you've come up with, what really resonated with you the most. And if you need help kind of navigating any of those pieces, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to chat and see if there's any way that I can guide you in the right direction. All right. See you next week. All right, beautiful human. That's a wrap on this episode of Bold Women in Business. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honey Be Bold, with music by Shmukulele. But before you go, Don't forget to take the Content Marketing Power Type quiz at honeybeebold.com/quiz, because when your content fits your power type, showing up gets way easier and your marketing actually starts working for you. Until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and keep doing it your way.